Good morning. Welcome back to What's Up Wednesday with B. Boyd. Recorded on Thursday this week because yesterday I was in airports all day, which I'm realizing now would have actually been a great opportunity to record this since I was basically sitting around doing nothing all day, but just got caught up in trying to make sure I had all my tickets and my things and forgot to do a What's Up Wednesday. So sorry about that. But yesterday I was flying back home from Alaska. That was cool. My first time up in Alaska, and man, it's gorgeous. Holy moly. So I'll talk about that a little bit, what I was doing up there. And then the other thing that's going on this week is on Monday was the release of the Smog music video, which I've been hyping up for a little while. And that's the video that I tried to do a press release for a couple weeks ago, so I can talk about how that went also. All right, so Alaska. I was up in Alaska taking a kelp farming class. The University of Alaska Southeast put on a kelp farming class for folks who want to learn more about kelp farming. It was a 3-day aquaculture lab. We actually went into more than just kelp farming. It was aquaculture in general. So we covered kelp the first day, and then the second day we talked about farming shellfish. We kind of focused on oysters specifically, since I guess they are the most profitable. And then salmon after that. We talked about what it looks like to hatch salmon, and they had a couple of salmon hatcheries in Sitka, Alaska, where I was, that we were able to go and tour and talk to the actual experts running those facilities. So that was really neat. Yeah, farming kelp. Why farming kelp? Kelp is fantastic carbon sink. So it absorbs way more carbon than, as I understand it, anything else on the planet. If we can plant kelp across our oceans, that's like 30% of the carbon solution. And then, so that's huge. And then apart from that, the kelp itself can provide food to people. It can be used, you can make plastic out of it, bioplastic, so you don't have to use petroleum for making your plastic. And then I imagine, I haven't confirmed this, but I believe it's compostable plastic too, which is great. And then so it doesn't pollute the oceans more. You can make like fragrances and lotions and things out of it. You can turn it into cattle feed, which feeds cattle, and then the cows stop burping methane when you do so, which cuts that greenhouse gas emission as well. So also then part of a carbon solution. So there's lots of great things that come from it. It's also a pretty brand new industry. I mean, people have been farming kelp for a long time, but like historically, you know, like native folks over in Asia, they farm kelp for sure. But here in the States, it's kind of a new industry. And so it's an opportunity to kind of get in and establish yourself as like a new businessman or businesswoman in a brand new industry as it's starting to boom, which is kind of exciting. So I think all that's cool. And one more reason I like kelp, our agriculture industry in the States is totally screwed. I don't know if you know about this, but basically there's like a handful, as I understand it, there's a handful of companies that control all of the seeds that farmers are allowed to plant, and they got like patents on those seeds or something, so that the farmers are not allowed to replant their seeds the next year. They have to throw away all their seeds and buy new seeds from the company because the company owns the genetic strains of the seeds, of the plants. They own the like DNA coding of corn and soybeans, and so you're not allowed to keep your corn and soybean seeds because that's stealing from this company, and so you have to buy new seeds from these companies every year. On the same time, there's only a handful of companies on the other side where once you've grown your corn and soybeans, there's only a handful of companies, like one or two, that will buy your corn and soybeans and distribute it out to the world. And so then those 4 companies, the ones who sell you the seeds and the ones that buy the crop back from you afterwards, they kind of price fix so that they're like, oh yeah, we sold the farmers the seeds for this much this year, so the farmers' expenses were, yay high, and that means that, we can say they need about this much to live, and so you guys, the guys who will buy the crops back from them, you should buy the crops back from them for this much, and then they'll have this much to live, and we can both maximize our profits, and they call that the squeeze. And that's the reason that so many agricultural workers are exiting that industry. It's like a crazy situation over there. Anyways, so what's cool about aquaculture is it's an opportunity to get into agriculture and just bypass that completely. Say, dude, screw the corn and soybean industries. Screw Monsanto and Cargill and those big companies. Let's get in and set new precedents for how to farm a little more equitably and like not just screw over our workers, So fantastic opportunity there. I think some people are starting to patent their kelp strains, so that's frustrating. Again, I don't know, people get jumpy and start wanting to protect themselves, but I don't know how we navigate that as a society, but people are working on it and figuring it out. You can check out greenwave.org if you want to know. They're like a free educational site for kelp, run by this guy who used to be a fisherman up in Maine, and there's no more fish, so like he just couldn't be a fisherman anymore, and tried to figure out what else he could do. Ended up landing on kelp farming, and now he's super fired up about kelp farming and created this website as a free resource to try to educate as many people as possible and get more people into the kelp farming industry. So just genuine like person trying to do good there, person trying to educate people. I believe his name is Bren Smith. Greenwave.org, real neat. So that was the kelp side of things. That was cool to learn about, and the like reproducing part of kelp, where you like harvest spores from kelp and use them to establish new little baby kelp, was the most daunting part of the kelp farming process for me, at least when I was looking at it, researching it. Other than like actually trying to run the whole business side of things, I feel like I suck at business operations, and so actually figuring out how to take your kelp and sell it in a way that'll be profitable, that'll be a struggle for me if I become a kelp farmer. But the other part that was interesting and seemed challenging is the actual hatching of baby kelps, and usually farmers don't do that themselves. It's kind of similar where you just buy baby kelps from kelp hatcheries, buy basically kelp seeds from hatcheries and plant those, and then you just got to keep them alive and harvest them and sell them. Kind of minimize the number of things you have to do as the kelp farmer. But actually being there, we did a spore release on the kelp. We basically cut out the source tissue, cleaned it off, and then put it in some water, and that releases the spores. And it really didn't seem that hard once you actually kind of get your hands on it. you got to be real clean about it, and like, because you want to make sure you're only growing kelp in your water and not growing whatever other things have been floating around in the air or on your hands or wherever else. So there's some procedures to follow to make sure you're doing that right, but the actual hatching of the kelp did not seem so bad. So that was cool to experience. Day 2, we talked about shellfish. Shellfish are also great because you can grow them next to your kelp, and they have kind of a symbiotic relationship where the kelp filters the water for the shellfish, and the shellfish like eat some stuff and poop some stuff that's also good for the kelp. And they're both just easy to farm. You don't have to give them food. You literally just throw these things in the water. You don't have to fertilize them. Don't have to pesticide them. They just grow. There are some like snails and things that will grow on your kelp. They call it biofouling, I think, because they don't want to associate it with pests and pesticides, because they don't want pesticides to be the answer. So I haven't finished the Green Wave course. I'm sure there's approaches for minimizing your biofouling, but shellfish, also great and easy to farm, and you can include them just with the rest of your kelp, or you can farm them as their own thing. Kind of similarly, there's the options to farm your shellfish, like just buy the baby oysters or clams or mussels or whatever else you want to grow, and just put them in boxes underwater and let them grow. And you could just be the farmer there, or you could be on the hatchery side where you're creating the baby oysters to sell to the farmers. And that one looked a little more challenging than the kelp hatchery. The shellfish hatchery was a little more involved, but also doable. And then finally we looked at salmon, and man, salmon were a lot more work. There's a whole lot that goes into hatching salmon. I guess Alaska's very regulated on that too. It's the hatcheries are not businesses. They are very intentionally not profitable. The government actually set them up so that because we were catching all the salmon, we're like, all right, we gotta put some salmon back in the water, or we like Alaska's whole salmon industry, which feeds a lot of people and puts money on the table for a lot of people, is gonna just run out of fish, and so we want to keep our industry alive. So the government kind of set up, the people established all the hatcheries. It's like they're owned by the common good, basically, and they've got all sorts of regulations and interesting kind of business models to make sure those stay for the people, by the people, and anyways, but they're also that's a very involved process. That would be harder to just get into as an individual. There's a lot of expertise that goes into running those places. The two people we were talking to who ran the hatcheries had a lot of information in their heads. So yeah, that was cool. That's what I was doing up in Alaska. Alaska was gorgeous. Oh my God. I worry that I'll never look at Colorado the same. Colorado's already gorgeous. But Alaska, man, the mountains are right there. They're striking. And they still feel wild. They still are wild. There's grizzlies in town, allegedly. I didn't see any grizzlies, thankfully, but there were so many bald eagles. I swear, like every day I was seeing dozens of bald eagles just flying around. They're like ravens. They're just everywhere. There's bald eagles, ravens, and seagulls were the birds up there that I was seeing, and they were just everywhere. Really cool. And yeah, we were just taking boats out into the fjords to go check out these farms and ripping through the fjords from the Pacific through these massive epic mountains. There was a giant volcano that's just so clearly a volcano. Like never seen a volcano that just looks so much like a volcano before. And man, yeah, very, very gorgeous place. Striking. There's I walked around an old collapsed gold mine that had been overgrown. I guess it's technically a rainforest up there because they're right on the ocean. They get tons of rain, and so the amount of growth, like shrubbery and just moss, that overtook this abandoned mine from just about 100 years ago is crazy. It looks like it's been there forever. The level of growth reminded me of Hawaii, how green and lush everything was. And the guy who recommended that I go check out the ruins of this mine described it as looking like it was straight out of Indiana Jones, which I think is accurate. It was all overgrown, just like you're walking through a jungle kind of, and then you look to your right and there's just like a hulking structure looming out of the moss and trees. So very cool. Huge fan of Alaska. Maybe I can go back one day. I don't know. It's a expensive flight though, I'll tell you. Yeah. All right, that's Alaska. I could probably say more, but that's probably enough about that. Let's talk about Smog. That dropped on Monday. Let's see. So, yeah, my justification for watching this vlog is you can come with me as I experiment with different kind of marketing techniques and see how they went. So this one, the marketing technique I was really going for here was a press release, seeing if doing a press release is a great way to go. I mentioned in a video a couple weeks ago that I sent out the press release like a month and some change ago, and got a response back pretty quickly from this one dude, Andrew, with Geek Native, who wrote an article already and published it like a month ago, and embedded the music video in there early, and so that was really cool. Gotten an article right away. That feels great, but it was a little frustrating to have the music video released basically a month earlier than I expected, and to have that kind of not line up with my advertising plan. And then that, I think, ended up being, as far as I know, that ended up being the only article that got written. So, I don't know, not a huge amount of traction on the press release front. It made for a cool Instagram post to say, hey, I'm in the press, and publish that on the release day of the music video. That's been my most popular Instagram post in a while. So that's cool. And yeah, thanks Andrew for telling the story. I do think there's some interesting story around how that song was created, so nice to have that shared. Yeah, but as far as a marketing technique, I'm not sure it's the most fruitful. But I do think it bore a little more fruit than some of my other stuff. So yeah, my marketing schemes lately have been pretty fruitless in general. And so this one, the music video's gotten somewhere around 50 views. Nothing crazy, but the music video before that got around 30. And so we're doing better than that. And the song is getting some listens too, so that's cool. I also made a website with some merch, and that's getting some attention. So all in all, not terrible. I'm getting the impression that the path to success just involves doing everything, and you'll get a little bit here, a little bit there. Ideally at some point you break some threshold where word of mouth kind of hits on its own, and that's where you start really getting traction. So yeah, I don't know. Not feeling like fired up about the success of it or anything, because it feels a little underwhelming with how it did, but I think it is decent. So, yeah, we'll just keep an eye on that. As for how the YouTube channel approach, of course, I'm doing these YouTube videos regularly to try to drive a little more traction to the YouTube channel, so that people watch my music videos. I think that's helping a little bit too. Same kind of thing where it's like a couple views here, a couple views there. I think people like these vlogs more than I expected, and the shorts that I pull out of them from Opus Clip, people are enjoying a little more than I expected, which is cool. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. And yeah, and so that has driven some more subscribers and is potentially bringing some more attention to the music videos and the content that I want people to see. So yeah, that's neat. Anyways, I think making music videos in general is a good way to drive attention on music. If you're trying to get your music out there, I think putting some honest effort into some decent music videos is a good way to go. Nick D, again, I got this information from Connor Price's podcast, Independent, that he did for a season, and before he passed it off to Nick D, and Nick D did a season, and I only listened to a couple episodes of that whole show, but they had some good philosophies about how they approach things. And one of Nick D's was, I guess, when he was getting started, he challenged himself to have a new song with a music video every 2 weeks for a year. And that's hard to do. You know, music videos can be a lot of work. And so to crank one out in 2 weeks, every 2 weeks for a full year, that's a lot of work. But I think there's something to that where, one, you're posting regularly, which is going to make people want to actually subscribe and pay attention to what you're doing. And you're just putting yourself out there more, which means that you're more likely for people to spot you, right? If you only post like a single song once a month or a music video once a year, then there's just not a lot of opportunities for people to get their eyes on you and be interested in what you're doing. And so posting regularly is a good way to get people's eyes on you. And doing so regularly, I think, is really powerful. Yeah, I'm not making that commitment just yet to do music videos every 2 weeks. I don't think I can pull that off at this point in my life, but I do think that would be a very effective tool. But posting YouTube videos regularly, I can do, and we'll see how that goes. The other thing I was thinking about last night is, as I was driving back from the airport, just beatboxing along with songs. Sometimes I don't feel like singing along, but I'll beatbox along with songs just because it's, I don't know, a fun way to mix it up. And I figured, actually, you know what, that could be an interesting way to make a music video and a song and a YouTube video all in one go, is to like once every other week or something, do a stream where I just listen to a song I like and beatbox along with it, and then just take that beatbox as the drums for a new song, and just basically borrow the song structure from a popular song, and then like make my own melody, write my own lyrics, turn it into a whole new song. That could be a fun way to crank out some stuff. And I've been wanting to do a beatbox song for a while, and I still haven't. So I don't know why I haven't done that. It keeps slipping my mind. So maybe I'll get on that. For now, we got What's Up Wednesdays. We got Freestyle Fridays. That's enough rambling from me today. Thanks for tuning in. What's Up Wednesday. I'm your host, B-Boyd. I'll see you next week.